Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Today's guest is practicing health coach Barbara Diaz de Leon. Yet again, we get the chance to talk to a practicing health coach carving a name and a niche for herself in the ever-growing health coaching space. In this case, Barbara's niche is helping women to lose weight, regain energy, and start living life again. She guides her clients to incorporate simple nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, and mindset practices that are sustainable, which provide lasting results. It's always fun to hear from health coaches, and to be frank, that's what we're all about at Health Coach Radio. We think you come here to hear what your peers are up to, so we know you'll enjoy this glimpse inside of a health coach's practice and business. Our show's sponsor is Primal Health Coach Institute, an NBHWC-approved health coaching school. Head over to our website and visit primalhealthcoach.com/primalpro to learn all about the done-for-you 12-week app-based health coaching program we've put together so that certified health coaches can hit the ground running with an effective and transformational health coaching program right out of the gate. We know that developing program materials and sourcing a client management solution are two of the most show-stopping, daunting hurdles in new coaches getting started, so we made Primal Pro for you. Check it out at primalhealthcoach.com/primalpro. While you're listening, make sure to screen grab your podcast player and tag us in your stories on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. And as always, the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. It is time to get on with the show. Please welcome our guest, Barbara Diaz de Leon.
Oh my gosh, today we have one of our own. We have Barbara on. Barbara, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I was excited to get your email, just volunteering to come on and share your story. And there's a lot about your story I think will resonate with a lot of people. So let's start there. Let's start with a 5-minute background story on Barbara.
Oh, okay, that sounds so good. And yeah, if I could just, I've had my own transformation, long story short, and if I could just preach this from the rooftops, I would. So, I do appreciate being able to share my story here. But it started back in my 30s, and I had massive fatigue all the time. And all the doctors were telling me that, oh, you're just getting older. And here I am in my 30s. And, I'd just gotten married and, wanted to have children. And I started to have all these female problems, get hypertension. And again, conventional medicine was just like, hey, we're all getting older. Let's just see how this goes. And just gaining weight, getting more tired. And they would say things like, oh, just, eat less and exercise more. And that is not a treatment plan. So, or, do that and let's see how it goes. That's also not a treatment plan. And and so, things just got worse. They did finally diagnose hypothyroidism, did not pick up on my autoimmune component, the Hashimoto's with that, which was a disaster. And I wasn't on the right thyroid medicine. So they weren't checking all the right markers, and I was just suffering. And meanwhile, I was vegetarian through this and really doubling down on that dietary plan. And actually, I was probably more vegan for at least half of it because I was always striving to be vegan just to improve my health. I was so desperate. And meanwhile, I developed, like I said before, all these female problems, and I ended up with a hysterectomy. So I didn't have children as a result, and that wasn't necessarily the plan. So that was a big emotional thing to go through. And then family and friends start looking at you sideways because this is so invisible too, having, these undiagnosed conditions.
Yeah.
And I finally went to a in-person event here in the Milwaukee area. And it was run by, at that time, Dr. William Davis's registered dietitian, called Delete the Wheat. And I had no idea what that was going to be about. And he wrote, of course, The Wheat Belly. And I went to that, and it was all about the paleo diet, like that kind of template. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was almost horrified because I'm like, wait, I thought vegan was the way to go. I was so indoctrinated with that. And just a side note about veganism and vegetarianism, if it works for somebody, great. But for me, It didn't work for me. I got osteopenia at a young age, ended up, with a hysterectomy, all kinds of issues,
Wow.
for sure. And I felt, just lost my zest for life. That was probably the worst symptom of all. So anyway, I gave this a go, and I thought, oh, let me just check this out and, go. It was a just a low cost event. And I thought, fine, let me try this out. And so, I was so desperate. So I actually bought ground beef that day and I made taco salad, and it tasted fantastic. And I was able to digest it just fine, because I know that's a big horror story in vegan circles about how you're not going to be able to digest it, and so thankfully I was able to, but I still wasn't convinced yet, because that's a real hard shift. Part of my vegetarianism was about the animal rights piece
Right.
too. Subscribed to all those groups and made donations, the whole thing. Like I said, I felt a lot of shame for not being a vegan. I just kept trying to be vegan, but somehow my body's wisdom said, eat the eggs, eat the cheese, give me something. And then I started to, that opened my eyes to functional medicine and integrative medicine. And I actually, the first two integrative medicine providers I had still didn't diagnose all my conditions yet. They did, one of them did identify Hashimoto's for my thyroid, which made a big difference, for me. And then, and they were starting to prescribe things like, read certain books and things like that. And hey, I'm all about mindset. And I think most of the time I'm a mindset coach more than a health coach. And I'll get to that in a minute, how I became a health coach. But it was just, it was just a really bad experience going from one doctor to the next, and they just weren't uncovering the right rocks. But during this time too, I started to eat more meat and feel better with that, and my eyes slowly started to open to that. Like, this is the way to go. And I would even watch like ex-vegan YouTube videos just to keep me inspired to keep the path. And I did get a different coaching certificate, not that was just a more general one during the time, because I just wanted to learn all I could about getting better, since I wasn't getting help from the medical world. And then I came across Primal Health Coach, and this was at the beginning when I started to, when I first heard about it, when I was first starting to leave vegetarianism, veganism, and enter into eating, animal protein again. And I thought, oh, I can't do that program. I'm like, that's all about, eating meat and, just the usual stuff. I was still so indoctrinated. And and so I did talk to you before about it, and I still put it off. And it was a couple of years until I started to feel so much better. My diagnoses, I got properly diagnosed, but I still wasn't quite where I needed to be yet. And so I signed up for a Primal Health Coach Institute, and thought, let me go this direction. It made sense. It was, just back to the basics, ancestral living. And I thought, let me give this a go. And that's when the magic happened, when I got properly diagnosed and treated. And I did my part with lifestyle, mindset, nutrition, because I was trying to still supplement my way out of everything when I got properly diagnosed. I'll just admit that I was so tired still. And overweight on 2 blood pressure medicines, brain fog, joint pain, body-wide joint pain, digestive issues, the whole 9 yards. So I was in a pretty sad state. And again, it was pretty invisible except for the weight gain. And so it was it all blended so beautifully, and it just came right at the perfect time. And so that's, how I became a health coach myself, because now I'm a zealot. I want to tell anybody who will listen. I've learned to temper that down a little bit with family members for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so nice. And I think the best, I'm off all the blood pressure medicine. I've lost weight and kept it off without starving. That was a big thing too, because before I found Primal Way of Living, I had gone on 2 popular weight loss programs, and I did lose the weight. I lost 35 pounds both times, but I still had all my symptoms. The only difference was I could wear skinnier jeans, but I still felt really bad, and no zest for life. I still had the blood pressure medicines, the brain fog, the fatigue, and then I gained the weight back, and I was starving the whole time. So, it really is. I'm very big on, nutrient density, low inflammatory blood sugar balancing protocol for nutrition, and not just the nutrition piece, but also how the lifestyle and mindset is so important and movement to factor into all of that as well. It's just, that's when all the magic happened, when I combined all of that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wonderful.
I just wrote down on a Post-it note, zest for life. You can't see it. I just love that phrase, zest for life, because that's a symptom that
You
people
had an
out
issue,
there,
right?
I lost my zest for life.
Yeah.
And that was my predominant symptom, like weight gain, whatever. But I had no zest for, I was checked out of life. But I think it's a symptom that a lot of clients, potential clients, don't even realize that they're living with. What I thought so interesting about you, and maybe this speaks to people who do go into health coaching. I don't know for sure, but you were very unwell. Like you were very unwell. Just symptoms and symptoms. Lost your zest for life, and you were chipping away at it, but you still had a sense that you weren't there yet. I'm still not quite there yet. I'm going to keep trying different things. I'm still not quite where I want to be. I think I feel like I had that in my health transformation. I don't know, Laura, if you can say the same thing, like, oh, that this is feeling a bit better, but there's still more ground to cover, versus maybe a lot of our clients who don't even believe that they can feel better, or that there is, a final, point to arrive at. Do you think so? Do you guys think that's maybe something that's unique to people who gravitate toward health coaching, that we have a sense and inner knowing that there is something better, even though we personally haven't felt it for decades? Like if we haven't felt zest for life for decades, but we know we have a memory of what it felt like in the body. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think, Barbara?
That zest for life, when you lose that, that is such a dark place to be in. And it's almost a miracle that I think it's our innate body wisdom saying, I can do better. I can feel better. I just think there was a pull of some sort saying, like I said, well-meaning doctors were starting to prescribe books for me to read, and I'm all for counseling and I'm all for that. Like I'm big on mindset, but I knew there was a physical component to this. I have Lyme disease and genetic detox issues and heavy metals. So I just knew in my heart of hearts there was a physical component to this, and I didn't have to live this way. And I got fed up and angry, actually, and I think that propelled me to get out of that. And I was as well-meaning as loved ones were saying, "Oh, we're just getting older," what's wrong with you? Because it was invisible. That actually propelled me to be like, no, you're wrong. I just know you are, and I think it's an innate almost ancestral thing that we have to want to live and live well. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
That innate inner wisdom, innate body wisdom, that's what I was kind of getting at. Like if you go to your doctor and say, yeah, but doc, I've lost my zest for life, with no hate or shade to doctors.
Right.
What if that doctor has lost their zest for life? You know what I mean? Like, or everybody in your life has lost their zest for life, and they'll say to you, well, I mean, you're just getting older.
Well, and doctors aren't trained for that, right? That's not what they go to school for.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was 30 when I lost my zest for life. And it's like, there's no way in hell that a 30-year-old should lose their zest for life. And people would say, well, you're older now, you're in your 30s. It's like, no. But some people would say, yeah, I guess you're right. Oh, well, you know what I mean? Like there is an innate inner knowing, but I think all humans have it. And wonder if there's an opportunity for coaches, now you're getting into this sort of mindset coaching and in a sense, life coaching. And, we're not talking about food. We're talking to our clients about, do you have a sense that it can be better? And can you remember a time when it was better? What did that feel like? Because people have lost touch with that. Like you still had it, right? So you were able to make those bold moves, but so many of our clients have like bid it adieu. And they're like, well, I guess that's done for me. Zest for life, no more. Right. So I think that's a really big opportunity. I just thought that was interesting that that was one of your key symptoms. And I wonder, and I know that there's millions of people walking around out there who've lost their zest for life and don't even know it.
Yeah, when you're just sitting, you're just existing, and it's just no way to live. And it's interesting what you said with the mindset piece. People gravitate to me for coaching services to lose weight, but there's some clients where, there's one that just graduated from my program. The first 6 weeks we did mindset work. She was so down and out. There was no way. And she needed to follow an AIP protocol due to some severe autoimmunity that hadn't been addressed. And so I needed to get her why, her to know her deep in her why in place, what she's living for and things like that. And that's not uncommon. That's just example comes to mind because she just, graduated. So she's fresh on my mind, but that mindset piece is huge behind this. So I'm so glad you brought that up because that is important. And it's, like I said, it's interesting. They come to me for the weight loss and we might not touch nutrition for a while or just parts of it. Yeah.
Well, and you said something a couple times that I can really relate to, and I think Erin can too, is I was desperate, right? So that's what drove me That's what drove Aaron, right?
Mhm.
That's what drove you. And I think that's super common among people that go into health coaching coming out of some sort of health transformation, is that you were so desperate that you were willing to do something
Mhm.
that ordinarily you wouldn't have thought to do, wouldn't have been driven to do.
Yeah.
After having gone through multiple doctors, I was finally so desperate that I went to someone that I would have at the time referred to as a woo-woo doctor, because I tried everything else. And looking at it now, he wasn't a woo-woo doctor. It was no magic spells, right? He
Right.
just treated me with lifestyle medicine,
Yeah.
right? And so if you really like looking at it now, it all makes so much sense. And it's
Mhm.
just not an arena
Yeah.
that allopathic medicine doctors work in. It's just not their expertise. They have a different expertise, right? And that particular expertise was not fixing me. It wasn't helping me. But I was so desperate. And I think that, just coaches listening, I think you're going to find that in many cases, when people are like, who's going to pay me what I need to earn per client? It's going to be that client that's been unsuccessful over and over again doing something else, that they're finally willing to take ownership of it. Clearly, I've got to take this into my own hands, but I need some help. So I'm going to find someone that's going to help me do this. And that's what coaches do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, they are. I know the clients that come to me, they're in a pretty desperate state by the time they've already tried countless programs, for the weight loss. They're not feeling good. And, that's exactly how they arrive at it. And, and then as they get into it, even sure there's discipline at first, to redo your pantry, get rid of the gluten and things like that. And if you're dairy sensitive, that's got to go, and, whatever it may be. And there's discipline at first, but then after a while they see how simple it is, sleep, play, sunshine, outdoor fresh air, and it all matters. And it's really interesting when some of those things start to trail off, because life happens, wheels fall off the bus. And that's, a big part of my coaching is navigating through all those obstacles that come in all of our lives, for sure, 100%. But they realize how, once they get in that habit with these basic things, that's what I love about the Primal Health Coaching Institute too. They really focus not just on nutrition, but all the necessary pillars. And there is such a wonderful simplicity to it, really. Just get to the basics, get your sleep, socialize, have good social circles, know your why, take care of yourself, drink your water, let that sunshine hit your body. I mean, it's amazing how much vitamin D you form with that, where, it surpasses taking the supplement. Don't not take your supplements, of course. I know I do. I live here in Wisconsin, so, there's not much sun to be, to be had here. So, but yeah, it is. And it's wonderful when they see that, how simple it can be, once they get through that, shift and develop habits. It really does come down to the basics, basically how our ancestors lived. Get into that nice parasympathetic healing state whenever we can. And I know, Aaron, you're very big on the blood sugar balancing. That's so key. That was a big key in my own personal transformation as well. Sugar addict, and that was a tough one to get through. But once you get to the other side and you feel so fantastic, and then you love yourself more too. You don't want to do that to your body anymore. You want to give it the things that it needs, the fuel that it needs, whether it's, food fuel or mental fuel, whatever it may be. Yes.
Right. I'm delighted to hear that you're folding in literally every ancestral health concept. I don't. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have play. Play is one that I never talk about. So you just mentioned play. So are you coaching your clients to play?
They do things like play with their grandchildren, things like that. My group is a bit older. They're, perimenopause, probably more postmenopause women. So things like that, or, going on a date with your husband or your partner, whoever it may be, that would be a form of play. So they're not doing anything huge, like, playing, well, some do some heavier sports like tennis and things like that, but some especially with the autoimmune conditions and body-wide joint pain and things like that, the play is at a different level, might be playing card games, things like that. It does connect with the social piece really well, because a lot of times when you don't feel good, like back to losing the zest for life, the last thing you want to do is get together with people. Like, I know I made excuses all the time to get out of it, because one, I was tired, and two, I just didn't care, didn't want to do it. Yeah.
Didn't care. Lost your zest for life. Social connections is huge. Well, so the play thing I just think is cool because, when we consider it in the context of an ancestral health model, it's one of the rules. And I think to myself, man, I never talk about it with my clients. Do I play? And there's ways of doing it. Like I like to draw. I just will doodle. That's play,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
But the social connection piece is really interesting. This popped on my radar. I want to say when Rob Wolf wrote Wired to Eat. And he had a big push for social connections in there. And that was the first time I'd heard a big push for it. But then when you do think about it from, our ancestors, they were in, I don't want to use the word tribe because we've appropriated that word, but we're groups. We're in groups all the time around each other. And, not to go down this rabbit hole, but how lonely has it been for the last 2 years? Like how lonely. So in your story, you were checked out of life. You didn't want to socialize. And then now we've had this social isolation forced upon us. And I'm wondering if you're seeing this, Barbara, in your practice, more people coming through that are just kind of struggling through feeling alone.
Yeah. This social isolation was a huge, and you really needed to find your connections wherever you could. And when I at the height of COVID, or when this all started, the isolation piece, I had to run my first free challenge. I remember in my Facebook group, and so I got feedback from people. I asked them for feedback after, and Erin, the number one thing people said was they liked the social connection. Yes. And this was an online event.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I ran my group program because I was sitting on my couch anyway. I was like, what the hell? Let's run a group program. I just threw it out there. And that was the biggest one I ever had. And that was early on. That was during like legit lockdowns though, like the early times. Yeah. People were like, I just need to talk to somebody, even if it's strangers on the internet. Nobody even really wanted health information. They just wanted to hang out with each other. Yes. But that was interesting to see. Yeah.
It's interesting with that this whole exchange was for folks listening that maybe you're not coaches yet and you're just listening because you're curious about this stuff. If anything comes across after this conversation is just how sort of lockdown, pandemic, like not risk free, but those of us that are out coaching and the ability to pivot and do all this stuff remotely and online to try to help battle this stuff is there. Other practitioners that had brick and mortar businesses, gym owners, clinical practitioners that had an office that could no longer function that way, were just sort of stuck. This line of work, we can still continue to help people. We don't have to be face to face. Is it ideal? Sometimes. Right? Depends on the circumstances, but we're able to sort of continue to build that social connection. And I just think it's because you tend to work with a little bit of an older demographic, right? You said
That's correct.
Yeah, postmenopausal women. And, sometimes I think the older we get, when our children are out of the house and we no longer have that sort of channel of social events because we're doing stuff with our kids and now we're working, I definitely think this is something that is just so important as we age to maintain youth. I was having this conversation with my husband we got on this whole topic about testosterone, and kind of getting older and the use of supplements as we get older for these things. I'm like, you have to remember, from a standpoint of longevity, people living into their 90s now, rather than life expectancies that were in the 50s, probably just a couple hundred years ago. We're now living 30, 40 decades longer than an average. So we've got to give the body the right environment in order to be able to remain as youthful as possible. And for some people, that may mean some sort of supplement. But I heard you I tried to supplement my way out of it for a long time, right? So to your point, if you haven't laid the groundwork first, like for a gentleman who's suffering, low testosterone, if you haven't fixed your diet and how you move and the stress you're under and sleep and all that other stuff, you're just throwing on a Band-Aid. And is it really going to work? The supplement should be just that. A supplement. It shouldn't be to just replace what will ordinarily be there naturally if you just do the work.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. It's like, I had over 15 years of illness that wasn't treated, and you just cannot supplement your way out of that. And it might help a tiny bit, but I can't tell you how much money I spent on that kind of thing. And then when I did get targeted supplementation, I still wasn't doing my part, back to the nutrition, lifestyle, movement, mindset piece, the stuff on the daily that my, wonderful doctor isn't there to help me out with on the daily. So, but yeah, it is important. And like you brought up a really good point about how we are living so much longer, and then the environment we live in, it's so toxic.
Right.
The air, the food, even organic food sometimes can be questionable. And also, not to mention just the mental toxic things going on. For me, it's not an effort anymore, but I had to make a real effort to minimize watching news and things like that. I do want to be informed, and I think it's important to be, absolutely. But the way now I'm so cued in on it, like when something is just beyond news and it's just, fanfare or just trying to get ratings, which is a lot of it, I see that so much more readily. So I'm now able to turn that off. But just the mental toxicity too, the negativity. And I think that my thought is, I don't know if there's science to back this up, but I think we're just naturally default to negative just as a protective thing back.
Right.
And way back when, running away from another group, that wasn't, that you're at war with, or from, wild animals, whatever it may be. So I think it's a good safety thing, to have too. But that mindset shift is very important. And then, like you said, with the social circles, I have a mother-in-law who's going to be 97, and she's not primal, but she follows a lot of the principles. She gets fresh air. She, eats wonderful food. She includes animal protein, and she's got an active church life, things like that. And she lives in the same house my husband grew up in. She drives on her own. She wears shoes with little high heels. Like, I mean, she's rocking it. And I think, the only thing she does do is, she does eat, grains, but not a lot. She eats really well. And that's an example of, she did that consistently. So it wasn't like she was just a weekend warrior with, okay, I'll do really well on the weekend and throw away everything during the week. And that's another big thing in my coaching is consistency for the win, daily for the win, small steps, for the win. Not that doing something good for yourself on weekends only wouldn't have a benefit. If it's better than nothing, of course, do it. If that's when the only time you exercise and things like that, don't stop, by all means. But yeah, she's a great example of, just how the daily consistency of small things, she makes sure she still goes to the YMCA every day, or the Y they call it now, except for Sunday. And she's just fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So consistency. One thing that you mentioned earlier, I say consistency because that was one of the sort of the approaches to help your mother-in-law to thrive. Like she's just consistent action, right? So just chipping away at consistent action. But another thing you mentioned earlier, I jotted this down when you said it, is this idea of obstacles. More and more, I'm getting into the frame of mind that that's not mostly, but a large percentage of what health coaches work on.
Yeah.
Barriers, obstacles. What are they? What are they? Like, I can't tell you how many times I have conversations with my clients about what their barriers are. And they'll say, well, I don't know, I'm kind of busy this week. Okay, what? Doing what? When? Where? Like, you think you're just we're not sweeping that under the rug. That's important. And I think that's interesting too. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that because, and I've said this a million times, if unbalanced, the amount of times I actually talk to my clients about food, it's precious little. I'm usually talking to them about their barriers, their thoughts, their beliefs, what they think they know, what they're feeling. So let's talk about obstacles. What are some of the obstacles that you're commonly helping your clients through? What do you see out there?
Yeah, a lot of them, fall back to time, things that take up their time, like, emergency work meetings, or they had to, someone quit and they have to cover, and they're literally working 7 days a week, which is not normal, at all. And so sometimes, like you were talking about, nutrition ends up being the least amount of thing you talk about. And that's so true. I feel like I'm a time management coach sometimes too, or, or a lot of times too, it's like, I don't know what the saying is about it's not a very good saying, but the baby out with the bathwater, whatever that is.
Right.
But it's like, just because you can't get into one thing doesn't mean you still can't like go take a minute away, 3 minutes away to go deep breathe. You can always do that. There's no reason not to. So I find that it seems like when these obstacles come up for the clients, a lot of times they think, okay, that's it, I'm done for the day. And they throw the whole towel in. It's like, no, you can still do some things to keep your momentum up. And then perception too is a big thing too, because these obstacles are, they're continuous, right? I mean, they're just going to come. And, it's just how your mindset around that too. Just to say, okay, let's be more solution seeking. When can you do it? If you can only do your deep breathing when you go to the restroom, at the meeting break, then that's when you're going to do it. You need to, don't, like I said, throw the towel in just because you're a little bit off schedule here. And if there's, I've had some of my clients got real sick with the illness that's, that has been, rampant. And, then I'll back off some with them on that, because I'm like, right now your priorities are rest. You really need your rest. And, so we'll, focus on that. There's a list of things that, we come up with, habits that we agree on, but they're change every week. Those non-negotiables can change. And I think when they keep that mental momentum up, that really helps them get through these things that come up, these barriers. Or another big one is, the kids or grandkids get sick, and then now they have to homeschool them while they're working at home. I mean, it's just, it goes on and on, so it can be all kinds of things that they come across, but it's so important just to keep that momentum up and keeps, some of those pillars going. And, I know it's the old saying, is like when you're stressed out and that's when you need the stuff the most, but really in reality, it's hard to do everything. Like I don't do everything every day. I'd like to, but I don't, but I do, it's figuring out what I need the most for myself that day. Maybe it's more of a workout. Maybe it's more rest. Maybe I do need to dial in the nutrition, a bit better, add in, something additional into my plan, that, I've been maybe, blowing off for whatever reason. So yeah.
Yeah. I think time is a big one that comes up for everybody, and it's a hard conversation to have sometimes, because to a certain degree, to Erin's point, you kind of have to call them out.
Yeah.
I'll often ask, is it really that you don't have time, or is that time being taken up by something else? You're prioritizing something else.
Yeah.
What is it? And it's, for whatever reason, prioritizing work and prioritizing the kids somehow, I don't know, is it more virtuous than somehow prioritizing yourself and your own health?
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of mindset work, is helping people really unwind that and understand that they're only a great employee and able to be better at work, and they're a better parent when they find a way to prioritize certain things. And again, I was interviewing Mark Sisson actually just the other day. We did a webinar, and someone brought up the whole like blue zone diet thing and how it's mildly different than a typical primal diet, right? They're actually very much the same. They're focused mostly on nutrient dense, fresh whole foods. The fact that they occasionally throw in a legume and some well-prepared sprouted grains or something is really irrelevant. And Mark's point was, it's really more about what you're not eating. And we were having this conversation about how any one aspect of the lifestyle becomes more important as the other ones fall away and deteriorate, right? So if exercise is really the hardest part for you, and right now, I don't have the bandwidth to add that in, then that's when we focus on the other things that you can, like sleep, like other things, because the more we improve those, the less of an imbalance we see by not quote unquote exercising. And we'll just find a way, we'll get rid of the concept of exercise and let's just add in movement. Where can you stand more? Where can you take a walk? How can you involve your children? Things of that nature. Like all of this stuff comes in a balance. And I'd love your opinion on this, because if we focus a lot on menopausal women or women in general that oftentimes have this, whether they're working full time or they have this like work-life balance issue. In my opinion, like it's never in perfect balance, and trying to create the illusion that it's always this perfect balance, we give our clients a disservice. That there will be times where work is taking up more, or when family is taking up more. The more important thing is that over the longer term, things find a way to balance out. That when you go through periods where work is taking up too much time, you recognize that and you bring it back, and vice versa.
Gosh, I love everything you just said. That's so, so true. And, the thing is too, when you're focusing on something, maybe that you should not be focusing on, it's not important. It stresses some of my clients out. And then here comes our friend cortisol, which is the worst thing I know for everybody, but especially for postmenopausal women, it's nobody's friend. And so it has to be, things that they do that resonate, but with a push too. What feel like my role is too, is that they just don't throw in the towel entirely. What is your biggest need this week? Like, what do you need to do? And I have such a joy when the clients along the way finally realize, they, especially the working moms, and, when they say, I need to put myself first, it's like, oh my gosh, that, I think the angels are singing, right? When I hear that, it's like they finally realize how important it is, because then they can be that stellar mom, that stellar worker, that stellar partner, that stellar family member. They can rise up, and while they're feeling good, because it's like you said, it's such a balance, figuring out what you need that week, what's best for you. Like, when my clients were ill, very ill, and some of them, they have, well, a lot of them have underlying conditions. So when they got sick with that, then they get, even more sick than a regular person, it's like sleep is your thing. And then last thing I want to do is stress them out. But at the same time, like you said, it's a balance, because you don't want to totally, ignore all the things that they need to do, or the excuses. That's where that, time management comes in. It's like, okay, what can you do? What can we squeeze in? You can do a wall push-up, here and there, there's walls everywhere. So, for sure. So just, figuring out those things. And then it's so important mentally too, then they build the momentum, and then they're not losing sight of their, the things that are good for their health and their health goals. They still have their, toe dipped in the water, even if they're not feeling, well at all, they're still doing something for themselves. But
I love that term, mental momentum.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Right. With the
The time thing is delicate, because if someone says, well, I don't have time, so we can say, let's talk about your time. So just like Laura said, maybe you do actually have time. And I've done this time audit exercise. It's very uncomfortable, because you're like, wow, okay. I was on Amazon for 25 minutes. That was unnecessary. But anyway, so that, it's like, let's see, maybe you really don't have time, but let's find out for sure. And then it's like, okay, it looks to me, it looks to me like you really are very busy. How do you feel about that? Like, you don't really have time for yourself when we look at it on paper. How does that feel for you? Is there an opportunity for you to carve out some time? And then you're getting into talking about family and career stuff. And I can't even talk about the number of times I've had conversations with my clients who will say, you know what I really need is to hire somebody to help me at work. And like, that's the job one, to get onto this health path. So really being sensitive about the audit, being sensitive about, some people just really don't have time. But the thing of it is like, that's a very disempowering feeling, to look at your life and say, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have energy. I have mom guilt, all of these things. I have symptoms. It's all disempowering, and it just brings you down, down, down. And so I think that I think one of our jobs, again, as coaches, is to find those glimmers. What's the one thing you can do? Just do one thing. And so this goes back to what you're saying before, the baby in the bathwater. That's the all or nothing thinking, that I'm just going to throw diet culture under the bus. Diet culture taught us that we have to be on the program or we're off the program. And it's like, no. There's this whole field of gray. And so if you can do this one thing, can you see how that would be a great thing to do? But that's a lot of deprogramming. I think that's a big part of what we do too, is deprogram that black and white thinking.
Yeah. Oh, so many good points there. Yeah. I love it. One thing I have many of my clients do is, at the end of the day, it's called 3 roses and a thorn, 3 things that went well, because I'm very big on having a positive mindset, but not being a denier though either. There's some things you need to assess. So the thorn could be, it's a learning opportunity. So something that didn't go well, maybe it was something on your list that you didn't get to. Well, maybe it wasn't reasonable to be on your list. So you're supposed to assess that. Or maybe you could have done it, but you were scrolling on social media too long. Or the neighbor got your attention who talks your ear off all the time. You need to set boundaries on that. And because you don't even maybe care for the neighbor too much, but you don't know how to, pull out of that conversation. Maybe that's where the assessment is, or maybe it was something completely out of your control. And then you need to, that's where you learn, okay, I need to go with the flow on that one. That one, I'm giving myself lots of grace on that. But, give yourself lots of grace anyway, but, especially for those things that are outside of your control. So, just to get that mind shift going. And then even if they do one thing, to add in, I got a client that didn't drink tea or anything. She was having a hard time sleeping. And I said, and what works for one person, I understand doesn't work for everyone. So we just try different things, of course. And I said, just try some chamomile tea at night, just give it a go. And she was so skeptical about it, and she did. And it really helped her, it helped with her body chemistry and everything. It was something she needed just to help boot her down and get her into that parasympathetic state. She wasn't a yoga person, so she wasn't going to do yoga. And to help relax and that worked for her. So just one little thing, and that didn't take long to do, and it was easy to integrate. So again, back to not that all or nothing in that gray. There's things in that gray area. There's so many small things that, can be done. Yeah,
Mhm.
Everything
absolutely.
is. That's where everything is. Okay, I think we should shift into talking about your practice. So we
Yeah.
know generally who you work with. How do you work with people? So you one-on-one, let's start there. So you do coach one-on-one, and what does that relationship typically look like?
Yeah, I do coach one-on-one. My program is a 12-week program. I did offer a 21-day program, but I'm revamping that. That brings a point. A lot of people want the fast transformation, and that's another deprogramming piece. Like
Mhm.
the transformation takes time. It did for me, but it's lasting. I'm never starving. I feel great, but did I lose my 35 pounds in 3 months? No, absolutely not. So it's mostly a 12-week program. Most of it's online, but some of it is in person. And so I will be making a 30-day program shortly. So I do want to kind of meet in the middle. I don't want to, some people aren't quite ready to make that time and commitment and investment in a 12-week program. And I get that. But I just also started a collaboration with my local doctor's office, and she, as a health coach within their practice, that just started. And I do that part-time in addition to my online coaching. So that can still involve Zoom and things like that. But so far it's been in person, and which I, love that too. So that's been something, additional I've added to my practice. What I haven't done yet is a group coaching program yet. I do look forward to doing that, but I do remember way back when hearing you talk about this, Erin, about doing the one-on-one is really good to get, a feel for everything. And, you're just more experienced and equipped to run a group program. I do free group challenges, but that's a bit different. Those are 5 days. They're light. They're not intensive. And interestingly, those don't have a lot about food in them either, maybe one
Mhm.
day. Yeah. So right now my signature program is the 12-week program. And then some clients do sign on as retention clients after that. If they have 100 pounds to lose and they're having good momentum, they'll stay on. And I do like that when they do, because that sometimes it could take, we're all different, of course, but 3 months to develop the habit, and then like additional 3 months to make it more your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You have to really hone it in. So I've had some clients that stop at the 12 weeks and maybe return, and then some stay on, and and some are just good to go after the 12 weeks. They got that nice solid foundation. But at this doctor office, I offer both the signature program and consults on an hour-by-hour basis.
So
Wow.
how did I would love to, so this is something that Mark Sisson says all the time, and I agree with him that the two biggest areas for growth in health coaching is going to be working collaboratively with a clinical practice. It is so widely needed in the healthcare space, and it's becoming more widely accepted in the healthcare space. And the other areas around corporate wellness. It's not that there isn't always a market for the private practice, always. And that will continue. But from the standpoint of new opportunities, he's fundamentally convinced that's where they're going to be. So tell me a little bit about how this collaboration with the local doctor's office came about for you. Do you mind sharing with us how that happened?
Absolutely. And I am just extremely grateful and blessed and honored to be able to do it. I will be learning so much here. It's actually my doctor, my local doctor. So a lot of her patients are my ideal patient, my ideal client. So it's a wonderful collaboration for sure. And she said she felt a need to have more of a nutrition focus, and she doesn't have time in her visits to go through that. Even though she's an integrative functional medicine doctor, she still has to new patients are longer visits, but she still has to clip away at her day. And so this gives the patients there an opportunity to do a deep dive into the nutrition and the lifestyle, which is very important because they have, it's a office full of people with autoimmune conditions, Lyme disease like myself, all kinds of chronic conditions. So it naturally occurred. She had asked me, about it, and it was great timing. I had room in my schedule for it. I am getting really busy now, so I might have bit off more than I could chew, but I'm so excited just to keep sharing it, and I think my next step after that is to look at group programs, but I just loved, sharing the information. So I did, did definitely go for it. And because I learned a lot from her too, and then it's also just, it's just a great opportunity to help more people and get the word out there too. So, we share each other's information, on social media and things like that. So it's a good collaboration.
So how did this happen? So did she, because again, this is a question like, hey, how do I get into, how do I even discuss the opportunity? Was this something where, so she was your doctor and she knows what you do and she approached you? Or she's your doctor and she expressed, hey, I'd like to be able to offer this, but I don't have time. And you offered, hey, this, do you mind sharing how that conversation went?
She had approached me actually. And, I was just, of course, so honored that she did. She asked if I had time to do it. And so it really, it was really a gift, so I didn't have to do that. But that said, though, had she not approached me, I could see where a natural occurrence would have been, or natural chain of things would be, where I would approach her eventually, because, I think highly of her. I agree with her, what she does, her philosophy, and she's definitely, changes lives and things like that. But I think that if somebody wants to work for a clinic, by all means, put yourself out there. I think I naturally would have eventually done that. I think we were meant to work together. And I think if she had not approached me, I would have eventually approached her, just because I'm highly interested in it. And she's like a dream doctor to work for. So in my opinion, always has been. So I could see where I would have approached her eventually had she not.
Well, and she knows what you do, right? I mean, that's honestly, when people are like, where am I going to find clients? But dude, tell people what you do. If people don't know what you do and they don't know what you have to offer, they're not going to ask for help.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So she knew what you did. Clearly you're passionate about it. There was some synergy there and she made the connection. So that's kind of part of it too, just through your natural daily life. So
just
exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Just stay connected with people. Don't be afraid to share your story. Of course, I had to, like I said at the beginning, dim that down a little bit because I was a bit of a zealot. So now I'm more permission based. If somebody wants to hear my story, I just don't throw it at them. I can wait for them to express an interest first, because some aren't ready to hear it, for sure. But this worked out really well. And I'm, like I said, I'm really, happy about this collaboration. Yes, 100%.
It's really exciting. I'm excited that, it's just exciting that doctors are seeing the value in this. I just get more excited every time I hear that. And so I just want to circle back on your programming, because you did mention that at least I like to teach that coaches should at least consider their one-on-one methodology first. And this is why, because then you have something to pitch to a doctor, say, this is what I made this thing, this is what I do. And from the perspective of getting into a group program, I literally wouldn't know how to start a group program if I hadn't built something and taken clients through it one-on-one. It took me 5 years to build my first group program. I was like, okay, now I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I just want to put a plug in for that. It's not like you have to build a program and put 1,000 people through it before you branch into group, but decide what your methodology is going to be. What are you the expert at? And claim, stake your claim really into that. So I love hearing about programming. I completely geek out on it. I'm also very excited to hear that you're busy.
Yeah.
You're busy. And what I'm really excited about is, if I met you on the street and I said, oh, hey, Barbara, what do you do? You would say, I'm a health coach. And that's literally what you do. That's your whole thing, right?
It's like, I feel like I changed women's lives.
Oh,
Yeah. It's, but I love it when people ask what I do, for sure. But like I said, I kind of hold back a little bit, but, only because some people aren't ready to hear the whole thing. So,
well, I think, just playing this scenario out, I'm a health coach. I change women's lives. I don't think that's overly zealous. I think that's a very nice little succinct soundbite that would pique some curiosity. Like, oh, even answering the question, I'm a health coach, which is just exciting to say it. I mean, because
Yeah.
maybe 6 or 7 years ago, it would have felt weird to say it because it was fledgling, but now it's very legitimate, more and more legitimate every year. Um, there's a curiosity that's piqued when we can say, oh, I'm a health coach. What does that mean? And then you can start to toe dip into the details. And I think the evangelism is something we all suffer with, but you can be excited about what you're doing. I mean, I wouldn't want it any other way, actually.
Yeah, my previous life, I worked in a corporate setting. Actually, I'm a registered nurse, and I worked in the administrative side of the medical field and compliance. So yeah, the hospitals and all that, it is about the money. I'm here to tell you, because my job was to make sure the documentation was there to make as much money, make the money, not lose out on revenue, because there's so many adjustments and cuts all the time. But at the same time, do things correctly, like not, document it, correctly. So you're not overdoing it either. You can't have that. So, but now I wake up in the morning and I'm so excited to hit my day, even though I'm busy. I'm tired.
Great.
Like right now, sleep is my thing that I need to focus on and that I have been. I actually switched up my whole gym routine and everything just so I can tend to that. Yeah, for sure.
Have you tried chamomile tea?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's so nice to be able I feel so blessed and honored. I get up in the morning, I'm like, gosh, this is great. This is what like you said, when someone asks, what do you do for a living? When you say you're a health coach, there is such a, enormous amount of honor and joy with saying that, for sure. It's like, I'm making a difference. And as a nurse, part of the reason why I left the clinical setting many years ago, and I wasn't into integrative medicine or anything back then, but I had an inner knowing that this isn't right. I remember just, hanging, antibiotic after antibiotic, IV piggybacks, and the people just aren't getting better and they're young. And I just it was so disheartening and depressing. And I didn't know what I know now, but it was almost like this innate deep thing in me that no, I don't like this. So it's nice. So I can help people, but I feel like I'm helping people in a much more profound way now. So than with being a clinical nurse. Yeah.
I feel like we hear that from nurses a lot. Like I feel like we hear that from nurses a lot because nurses are doing the interventions, right?
Yeah.
And watching people really not get better. Well, not always, but a lot of the time. Not always.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time.
I hear it on, when I'm talking to people that are the sheer volume of nurses that I talk to, the increase in volume over the last 2 years has been astronomical. The number of nurses that are looking to leave nursing, or at least the way they've been nursing, because they have seen that they're not helping anybody, and it's frustrating, and they want to be sort of on the other side, and they feel trapped in their current role, and they want to be able to remove themselves from that role, use their experience and everything that they've learned as a nurse, but be able to get on the side of prevention and try to help people before they end up landing in the hospital, which it's huge. And so before we started recording, I asked you, what message do you want to get across? What do you really want to kind of say to people? And what you said was, it's never too late. So I think it sounded to me like this was both twofold. A for your clients, right? You're dealing mostly with postmenopausal women. It's not too late, but also for yourself in getting started in this endeavor.
Right.
That this is a second career for you. And so you entered into this field later in life, and you're being tremendously successful at it. And this is a question I get from folks that I talk to who are in their 60s already, and they're like, am I too old for this? So I would love for you to kind of spread this message of it's not too late.
Oh, I'm 100% behind that message. Absolutely. Like I said before, when I wake up feeling happy and charged for the day. When people bring up the word retirement, I'm like, what's that? I don't plan on doing it. I plan on being full speed ahead. I have the zest for life. I feel good. And how can helping people not energize someone, right? Like just sort of like giving is, the giver is the one who gets the, gold out of that. It's the same thing with this. And I'm 57, I'll be 58 in June. And I don't see when people talk about, well, when are you going to retire? I don't even enter into that conversation. And it's not a denial thing, because I plan on keeping on doing this, especially since I feel so fantastic. And when you are doing something that makes a difference in people's lives, it does, get you up in the morning and want to face the day, and not, check off the time of how many days until I retire. Gosh, that's so depressing to me. And, and like I said, it's not too late ever, for both, changing careers and for a health transformation. I did, my major transformation occurred, as while I was going through menopause to postmenopause. And, it can happen. I mean, I run into people who haven't seen me for a long time, and they're like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like, in a good way, what's your secret? That kind of thing. But it doesn't, like I said, I'm in my 50s now, I'm in my later 50s, and, I feel like I'm just starting, this is now just starting to get super busy with my career as a health coach. And it's just fantastic. It's definitely do it. Like, if someone's on the fence with it and they want to do it, I'm telling you, it is worth it. Just take the plunge. I wish I didn't wait so long. I mean, I know that's probably what a lot of people say. And I know I talked to you, Laura, for I think it was a couple of years, maybe longer. Oh gosh, I should go look at the old emails, to see, but it was, but everything, but when you're ill, you throw so much money at yourself with different things, and you're just like, oh, another thing. I don't know, maybe this isn't it, but I'm telling you, go for it. Yeah. Both for your health and for changing careers, whichever, you would like to do it. Don't wait.
Don't wait.
Yeah. Even in your 50s, you have decades of life ahead of you, and they could be the best ones ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm excited. I feel like I'm extra driven, because I have to make up for that, 15,
Yes.
Well, it's actually probably closer to 20 years, but I'm not quite sure. So I always say over 15 years of illness, I need to make up for that lost time. And, there's things on my bucket list that I want to do now. Now I'm strong enough to do, and, back to that play stuff, there's things, that I want to do that I'd like to do. And and I'm able to, it's not, it's not like I'm doing something that's beyond the scope of my fitness level, or, mental capacity or anything. It's like, it's wonderful. Yeah. I feel like, definitely, I'm making up for lost time, and it's been a joy. Absolutely.
Awesome. So before we let you go, would you mind sharing a little bit? Because again, the number one question Erin and I get are, where am I going to find clients? Right. And we try to turn the table and ask, how are clients going to find you? That's a better way to answer that question. Yes. So tell us a little bit about how your clients find you. Now, clearly with this collaboration with the doctor's office, you're going to get clients that way. But before that, how did clients find you? And
right.
Yeah. How did you handle that?
Well, my method was social media, organic social media, putting yourself out there, putting out content. Don't be afraid to share. And that was a big transition for me, because I was very much an introvert. A lot of it was just those deep brain pathways from being fatigued and not wanting to live life. I mean, the only reason why I was on Facebook was because I, run the first health coaching program I did. They recommended you join Facebook to be in the group. And I had the same picture of a cat for 4 years as my profile picture. And I'm posting, videos of me at the gym, doing my, working on my pull-up challenge and things like that, but people want to get to know you, is my point. So be authentic, be you, get yourself out there. And that was what worked for me, is no one's really going to come knocking. Follow up with people in a genuine way. For sure. Don't, I don't ever, send someone a direct message just pitching them anything ever. If I think someone's an ideal client, I might reach out to them, after I've gotten to know them a bit on social media, maybe from some Facebook groups, things like that. Also, my private Facebook group, the free one, that's where a lot of my clients come from too, because they really get to know me more, but a bit about what my coaching style will be, the approach that I take. And so that's really good too. But I'm always putting myself out there, and I'm an introvert. So like, that was very uncomfortable for me at first. And, being a coach, I believe in coaches. So I have a business coach too. So that's helped a lot too. But the main thing is getting myself out there and being authentic. Don't try to be something I'm not. And I'm telling you, the videos where I think I look the worst and sound the worst are the ones that get the best feedback, and it's so nice when I get a DM or something from somebody, and they say, even if a lot of times they may not end up being a client, but they say, gosh, I really needed that today. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, there's nothing like that, just giving and, giving resources here and there. Just that giving aspect is really that's what keeps me going with it. So, for sure. But it
I love that.
gets, yeah.
Yeah. I love the idea of starting up. I have a free group that I started when the pandemic began. And then when I moved, a lot of that fizzled, but I still will post in there every once in a while. And you just get more engagement within that group. As far as people just responding to posts, asking more questions, things of that nature. So, it's inexpensive and it doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't have to all be curated. So, and that's an interesting, I hear that a lot too, right? Aaron, we hear this a lot too, like people just not comfortable on social media. I don't know how to do it. Do I have to be in social media to grow? It doesn't have to be this huge, expensive, sucks up your entire day to cure. It doesn't have to be that way. It really just needs to feel natural. As a matter of fact, the more natural it comes across, the better, right?
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome. So tell people, I know that we're going to have people that are going to want to follow what you're doing and gain some inspiration and just kind of stalk you a little bit and kind of see what's going on. Yeah. Where can people find you?
Sure. Well, my website is dailywellnessforyou.com. So that's a great place to find me. And I'm also on Instagram under Primal and Pink is my handle, Primal and Pink. Yes, that's the name of my free Facebook group too. If somebody would like to join, it's Primal and Pink. And then I have my personal Facebook page, Barbara Diaz de Leon. There's not too many of us out there. I'm the one that looks European. So and so, that's where a lot of my content goes to. So I just, I'm all over. Oh, and I'm on LinkedIn too. So those are places to find me. But and I enjoy doing it. Like you were saying, that just, back to your point about being natural, just being yourself and not making it a grind, right? I don't do paid advertising or anything like that. I just, it's just so important. Be yourself, and you want the right client for you too. You don't want to have the wrong client signing up with you either. So the more they get to know you, the better the fit it'll end up being. So if you do enter into that coach-client relationship. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for raising your hand and letting us know you have something to share. And I think you had some really valuable things to share. So thank you so much. This was so fun.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you both and do this. Thank you so much.
You got it.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.